Ride with me in my foul life.
Podcast world, what's up? Chad Belding back at you. Another episode of The Foul Life. Thank you all so much for the humbling growth, the success, the attention that y'all are giving us. Hopefully you love our guests, our diversity in topics. We're going to keep bringing it to you, from competition, duck calling, goose calling, in the blind, in the boat, dogs, recipes, Traeger, and you name it. This series we've entitled The Essentials of the Duck Hunt, the essentials of duck hunting. You can wrap this into goose hunting, waterfowl hunting as a whole. But we thought during the quarantine, this off season, that while we're all at home, we could really start to do a deep dive on what the essentials are, what it takes to consistently find success in the duck blind, the duck woods, the marsh, the river systems, the oxbow lakes, the peanut fields of Oklahoma, the pea fields of Saskatchewan and Alberta, the West Coast rice country of California, and the Delta of Sacramento, the Butte Sink. Wherever you're at in this country, it has a wide range of offerings for the waterfowl hunter. You might be chasing brant or sea ducks, you might be chasing geese, specks, snows, Ross geese, Canada geese, all the subspecies of the Canada geese. What does it take to consistently see success? Because if you're consistently unsuccessful at something, your chances to want to keep going, your desire to want to keep going, when you're always in a slump, they go down. We want everybody to have fun in this, and a lot of times fun entails having some sort of success. We're not saying that you have to pull the trigger a lot and see a lot of blood and kill a lot of animals to deem success, but you want to take memories out of that hunt. You want to learn something every day, be a sponge, whether it's a new recipe or a new tactic or something that you observed with your dog, man's best friend that day. And that's what we're doing here on the Foul Life Podcast, is bringing you the essentials of duck hunting. And that brings us to our sponsor today. This episode of the Foul Life Podcast is again brought to you by our friends in the state of Oregon. Made in America, made in USA, Gerber Gear, Gerber knives, Gerber blades. You talk about a tool that we consistently have in our trucks, our boats, our blind bags. Wherever you see us, we will somewhere on our body or in where, however we arrive to that location, have a Gerber product with us, whether it's a saw, fillet knife, closed blade knife, a folding knife, an open blade knife, straight blade knife. You talk about a wider range of products and offerings right now at Gerber. You can find Gerber Custom, hashtag Gerber Custom, and we've designed our own knives. I saw my good buddy Remy Warren posted today on the one that he was able to design with fly fishing on one side and hunting on the other. But they're Gerber, they're made in America. They employ tons of our citizens here, the guys in our community, the ladies in our communities. They're a great brand. They're an iconic brand, and their story is unparalleled when it comes to great products for the hunter, the fisher, the conservationist, the naturalist, and the provider. So we're going to talk about that provider mentality more today. My guest today works full-time in product design for Gerber. His name is Karrson, Karrson. It's a little bit different of a way, but I love the uniqueness of the way Karrson's mom and dad spelled his name on his birth certificate. And his last name is even a little bit more difficult. Koivisto?
Yeah, Koivisto, yeah.
Koivisto. Karrson Koivisto, product design, Gerber USA. Thank you for being here, brother.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hey man, what is it like to be able to work in a field that you absolutely have a ton of passion for? I've heard through the grapevine through guys like David and I've worked with Kylie and Andrew and some of the other folks at Gerber. You love it there. A lot of passion, a lot of story, a lot of culture, right? Talk to me about what it feels like to clock in there every day. I know you're not clocking in right now, and you may never have to clock in per se, but during the quarantine, you're working from home. But what does it mean to work for something that you love so much and have the culture that a company like Gerber does?
Yeah. It's a good question, man. It's funny because I started working at Gerber. I'd never hunted a day in my life. And I just didn't grow up with that as a part of my family. And within 5 months, I had bought 6 guns, my first 6 guns, and I was hunting anything that was in season. And man, just because of that alone, it introduced me to my biggest passion in life, which is hunting. And
man, that's a way better answer than I thought I was going to get. I mean, that's cool as heck that you didn't grow up in a hunting family or with a hunting mentor per se, but employment at Gerber got you into hunting.
Yeah. You step in there and there's guys showing their pictures from what they took that last weekend and talking about their plans and applying for hunts and things. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? What's all this? It was like 2 loose wires connected for me. And ever since that, it's just get more prepared, plan further ahead, get into as many hunts as possible, negotiate the time with my family, save up the PTO, hunt. and then make the products that make the doing of the thing I love better. That's my whole game.
Yeah, it's just cool, man. Just seeing your guys' culture at a place like SHOT Show in Las Vegas on the Strip there every January, and your booth and the energy in it, and the stories and the Randy Newbergs and the Remy Warrens and all of the different ambassadors or pro staff, or you have a lot of those guys. But you guys mean so much to so many different parts of the country: the working man, the steel mill worker, the fisherman, the hunter, the woodsman, the log cutter. There's so many different walks of life that carry that logo that's on your hat, on my hat, around them. And when you hear Gerber, this is our first year with Gerber, but we've wanted to be with Gerber forever. And finally, we reached a part in our properties and our brands that we were able to have the confidence to approach them. And we're so blessed and so humbled to be a part of the Gerber family right now and the Gerber culture, like I talked about before. But I talk about, the tools of success in life. They're key. And, like just the easy ones like personal hygiene, or the way you present yourself, or working out and making a better version of yourself, and the way you feel, the better you feel, the harder you work and the more success that you're going to achieve, whether you're an athlete or whether you're just a 9-to-5er. I think that preparation is everything. And I think that having an idea and a visual and a vision, and I talk about visualization a lot in what we do. And I've just always envisioned success being wrapped around the provider mentality, the ability to live off the land. It doesn't matter how much money you make a year, as long as you're a provider, which I feel we were put on this earth to work and be a provider. My dad always said you were put on this earth to work and provide. And I think that that's a big part of how I judge success is, can you be a provider, and what goes into that? What is in your toolbox? What is in your arsenal? What is in your skill set? You might have never hunted, but now you love it and you're developing a skill set to be a better hunter every year. You might have grown up a skateboarder or a musician or an academic, a guy that could do a math problem like a whiz, like Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting. You're drawing on the chalkboard. I don't know what you grew up doing, but hunting encompasses this lifestyle that I've always looked at as just, I don't feel there's a cooler way to live. Now, doctors and military guys and professional athletes and musicians and you name it, hunting can be the common denominator, right? And I know there's golf that everybody can meet at the country club, but I don't think you get the same out of golf as what you do out of a fishing trip or sharing a day in the duck blind together or being at hunting camp for a week or 3 days together. So my point in all of this, Karrson, is that this mentality of the provider, the outdoorsman, the conservationist, the hunter, the gatherer, the fisher, I think it is so cool to live your life that way, to go out and hone your skills, to draw that animal in and kill him or her successfully, ethically, morally correct, with no cripples, compassion for that animal, conservation efforts for that animal. And then when you start right there of like, man, look at my application, look at my decoy spread, look at my dog, he's so ready, she's so ready, he's been trained. You know what I'm saying? Your decoy spread, your scouting, you got all of that part. Then you build your blind, then you're hidden and you're concealed, and you're trying to lure these animals into harvestable range that's ethical, right? And then after that, you start a whole other process that's just as cool of taking and butchering that animal and processing that animal and having badass out of the box recipes that you get to share with your girlfriend, your wife, your family, whoever it is. So all of that was said to say part of that badassness, that life of the hunter, the provider, the gatherer, the fisher, the conservationist, the naturalist, is a knife. Having a knife is so prideful, whether you're on the job site and you got it clipped in the inside of your front pocket in your jeans, whether you have a sheath or a holster per se for a knife, whether you have it in a boat in a spot where you're going to grab it to take care of something, cut a line or whatever. A knife is just very prideful. It's a very personal piece of equipment and a tool that people, they have it for a reason. There's a reason for a knife. Now, it could be self-defense and self-protection, and that's fine too. But in today's conversation, I want to talk about the product line, the culture of Gerber, and how it relates to a company like ours, a brand like ours. Like, oh, you're a duck hunter? Well, Gerber's never really done a lot with duck hunters. We're mainly into elk hunters that have big, long back straps, and we're quartering them out, and we're putting them on our horse and riding out like Cameron Haynes or somebody. Or a mule deer, or that's the perception it is. Well, duck hunters, we use a knife a lot. We use a Gerber product as much as anybody, right? So I wanted to talk about how awesome it is to live this lifestyle, how awesome it is to be around a company and a culture like Gerber and what they do on a daily basis to ensure this lifestyle and culture for many generations to come, because they're part of a lot of conservation efforts as well as just making badass products. And then I want to talk about product specific stuff and where we start, because you cannot tell me that from the day you start getting into waterfowl hunting and scouting and learning your way around the woods or the marshes or whatever you're hunting in, a knife and a saw and everything that goes into the equipment and the product that you guys build is important. So that is kind of long-winded, but I wanted to get that out of the way because I feel that 5 years ago, you entered into this badass lifestyle of being a hunter and a provider. And now you work in a company and a brand and a culture that provides product to guys like myself and our crew and hunters and fishers and lovers of the outdoors all over this world. Just think of how many people camp and then how many people fish. That's way more than how many people hunt. So then you add the hunters into that, but the working force, the working man, the working woman, the camper, the outdoor, the enthusiast, right? We all take pride in our knives. So I wanted to get into that about the products you guys build, made in America mentality, the culture of Gerber, and how a duck hunter needs to make sure that he or she is well equipped at all times with a sharp knife, an awesome saw, the tools that you need to what we said in the very beginning of this long-winded rant I'm on of being consistently successful in the woods. So that's where I'm at, buddy. That's why I'm having you on. I appreciate you being here, and you love all that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
This lifestyle's cool, ain't it?
Oh, it is. It's amazing. And, you talk about that, the culture of Gerber, and, we have a kind of a long form manifesto, and two of the lines out of that manifesto are, what is the consumer doing and how do we make the doing of that thing better? That's one of them. And the other one that I personally love is whether it saves time, saves the day, or saves a life, every product we make meets the needs of our consumers. And, that's the mantra, that's the culture, the mindset.
Say the second one again.
The second one is whether it saves time, saves the day, or saves a life, every product we make meets the needs of our consumers.
I love it.
Yeah.
In some of my first conversations with Andrew and the guys, one of the words that kept coming up and one of the, the initiatives that Gerber was getting ready to embark on was the provider.
Yeah.
And I said, Andrew, it's funny that we're talking about this, and you can ask him about this. And I know he has a lot of conversations, and this is this time last year, probably maybe a little bit later in 2019, he says, yeah, this provider mentality and all this. And I said, we have a company called The Provider, and we trademarked the word The Provider, and we have a cookbook series coming out and an interactive website and all this stuff. And I just, and he's like, are you serious? We've looked into that name and you guys are the ones that have it. And I'm like, yeah, because I love that mentality. I love that lifestyle. And it doesn't matter if you're not a hunter, but you grow a garden, you're a provider. If you're not a hunter and you buy your beef off of the shelves, you're a provider. If you don't eat beef and you're a vegetarian and you eat vegetables, you're a provider, right? Yep. So that mentality, you need a knife to cut up vegetables. So I just think that the lifestyle of the knifesman is so awesome. Whether you go back to the samurai sword and the videos you saw of that, or throwing knives and everything that you can do there, or just using them as a tool. I just think that knives are that special. That's why everybody in the world that is anybody that I've ever met has a knife drawer, right? Yeah. Everybody's got their collection of knives. This one might have a wood grain on. This one might be made out of elk horn. This one might be not, just bought in a Japanese restaurant or a Japanese store that you saw in Midtown that looked like a ninja knife. I mean, everybody's infatuated with knives.
Well, it's because their application's so broad. I mean, it's empowering to everything you do, like you're talking about, whether it's camping or vegetables or cutting up meat or taking your kill or whatever it is.
And when you notice when you need one the most, when you notice it
when you don't have one.
Exactly. God, I just saw my knife laying on the counter. Why didn't I grab it?
You reach for it and you have that moment of, oh no.
Yeah. You're like, it's happened to me in the hunt where you got your calls and you got your GPS and you got your cell phone and you got your dog whistle and you got your training remote control and you got your decoys and you got everything. And then you're like, are you serious? Who took my knife? And then you start blaming on somebody else. Who took my knife? Who used it? Or, you clean all your ducks and then you wash them off at the sink. And sometimes you leave them laying at the sink. And that's why I tell people, that's why you don't use your blind bag knife to clean it. That's your cleaning rig that's in a totally different spot.
Yep.
Okay. And then that's in a different place in the garage or your shop or in your truck or in your truck bed and your drawer. Like we have the deck, we use decked, the whole drawer system in the back of our truck. And it's got, I bet you each drawer's got 8 knives in it in different locations in different boxes, and they're for different things.
Yep.
So one of the first things that we use a Gerber product for in the duck hunt is, in the essentials of duck hunting is this series. And that's why I'm having you on, and I appreciate it again, is we use saws a lot, because with the permission of the landowner, always making sure that we're ethical with the way that we cut natural vegetation or go cut down trees, or sometimes you find dead trees to where that's already dead laying on the ground, and you can use that saw that Gerber provides you to saw off some of the branches. And what we want to do is we want to blend into the natural environment. We've had so many successful hunts of just creating what we call a false line, where we copy the tree line or the brush line, and then we have our blind and we go and we mimic what nature did. And with that use of that saw, we're able to make the right cuts to get the right length on things. We're able to cut off sharp edges. There's so many tools that Gerber has with their multi-tools and their files and everything, to where when you're building a blind, you have to be cognitive of that. Is this anything going to poke me in the eyes? Is anything going to cut me? Is the fence too sharp? Can I sand it down? Can I grind it down? Can I file it down some? There's a Gerber tool for all of that. So before the ducks even show up, Gerber's in the mix, right?
Yep.
That's an essential tool. So now your ability to hide depends on your ability to conceal, your ability to get ducks and geese the closest you possibly can. And I don't like to call the shot if they're over 15 yards away. People always are yelling at me, why aren't you calling the shot? And I just love getting them tight, because I love the majesty of them, right? They're powerful. So that's what I'm in it for. So Gerber helps me get there. That's why it's an essential. So talk to me a little bit about the saw part of it, the folding saws, the applications, the access to them, the ease of use of them, and the different models that you offer at this time.
Yeah. So a big thing with saws and with all the products we make is their packability and their weight. Different people have different setups for how they're going to hunt. I mean, where we hunt, we do a lot of carrying in, packing in a whole bunch of gear. And it's really important that things are packable, lightweight, and that when you take them out, they're still just as durable and as useful as a full-size thing that doesn't fold or doesn't break down to smaller. So our saws, we have, the Gator exchange blade saw. It's a folding saw with a really ergonomic grip, and it's got 2 different grits of their saw teeth. So you have a really fine one and a really thick one for taking down, anything from large, full-on 9-inch diameter trees in a real bad pinch to, your 2-inch shrubs and whatnot that you might use as the frame for your blind. So that saw does a great job. We have a sliding saw, a really similar application. But what you'll see as a thread through most of our product is that packable and as lightweight as is possible without compromising durability and endurance of a product. And so, our saws are glass-filled nylon frame, which is a really lightweight material that's super durable. And then SK5 steels, things that can stand up to a beating. You can hack down a tree, saw down a tree, and then fold it up, and it's going to be ready to go again 2-3 times in a row.
Because the worst feeling with the saw is when you're getting after it, right, and you're really in the mode. You got time constraints. You know that the ducks are coming. You got to get things done in a practical amount of time. I hate the feeling of a bendy saw. And when you start to talk about the gauge of steel that you guys are working with, that's what really intrigued me about a lot of the Gerber product on their saws, is that you don't get a lot of that flex effect, because I feel that that's just an accident waiting to happen. And I think that a manufacturer owes it to the consumer to never put them in a position to experience something like that. And if the saw's not meant to do what you said, a 9-inch diameter tree or your 2-inch shrubs, then don't sell it that it is. Right. Because as soon as I get going and I feel that flex and that bend and that saw, what I consider not being able to keep up with me or my speed or my strength of using it, then it's not suited for what we do. And that's where you're going with the materials you use, is that you're looking after, if you can cut down a 9-inch circumference tree, then you're going to be able to cut the right amount of shrubs or the right size shrubs for a duck blind.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so saws are critical, like you mentioned, and another thing that happens depending on the age and the greenness of a tree is those teeth can gunk up, and you're pulling and pushing, and it feels like you're not taking anything out of the tree. Ours had the durability to take a smack against the tree, clean out those teeth, and you're getting right back in there real aggressive again. So I think that's another really important thing, is they've got to be able to have their teeth cleaned. Obviously, the more wet, the more green the material, the easier it can gunk up in those saw teeth. So that's really important. And having another thing is having cross-cut teeth. So that's teeth that will cut both on the push and on the pull. There's a lot of saws that, they're actually just one directional teeth. You don't know it. A lot of people don't know it, but it's not actually cutting on the push. It's only cutting on the pull. So that's literally, half of your productivity, half of your efficiency gone with that.
That's a great point.
Our Gator exchange blade saw is, I think, one of the best in the market for it, both in terms of the value, the price you're paying for it, and then the long-term longevity of it. It's got just replaceable saw blades. You can, if you ever do run through one, you can buy another one.
So the blind's made, you're in there, you're ready to go. Anticipation's high. You see the air every time you breathe. You see the mist and the hot air come out of your mouth and the steam, and that anticipation. You love it, right? You're eating up with it. But now there's always the precaution taken of when you stand up, you don't want to scrape your hand and cut your hand. You don't want to lean forward and hit your eye. A lot of, I tell everybody wear eyewear, but sometimes people don't have it. But so you don't want sharp branches. You don't want sharp pieces of chicken wire. Talk to me about some of the products you have readily available to the consumer right now, either direct or through your dealer base and you might have some there with you. I know you're going to show us some samples. Mm-hmm. Something that has a filing capability, maybe like a multi-tool. Maybe it's a pair of pliers like a multi-tool, or another one, some of your other products that you can wrap onto that and bend it back, or wrap that piece of chicken wire or whatever it is back around itself to where the sharpness isn't out. So my point is that the hunting is so awesome, but the things that can ruin a hunt are stuff that we can handle, like gun safety, blind safety, making sure that your dog's always safe, making sure that the muzzles are always pointing the right way, and making sure that there's nothing sharp, because there's no worse feeling in the world than the idea of losing your vision due to a stupid accident that you could have very easily fixed with taking the precautions with a Gerber tool and making sure that things are, sanded off or filed off or whatever you want to call it, or, bend back with a pair of pliers, or sawed off with a saw, whatever it takes. Talk to me about some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the tools we do, we make have the versatility to take things like that. But so this is our center drive. One of the things that we have with our center drive is one hand open technology. So you just give a flick. A lot of times your hand is, you're busy doing something. You don't have the two hands to butterfly open a multi-tool.
What did you do there? Did you press a button at the same time?
Nope. It's just you kind of hold it loose, give it a flick of the wrist, and then the jaws slide up with that momentum.
Whoa, that's pretty slick, huh? That's kind of ninja-like right there.
It kind of is. Yeah. So then in there, the mantra with this product was all the stuff you need, none of the crap you don't. So there's a temptation to just load a multi-tool full of kind of miscellaneous things that don't actually get real use. But this item here has a file like you mentioned, and then here's actually a small saw for those really small, fine.
And that thing's stronger than it looks, dude. That thing's got some rigidity to it.
It really does. They're all locking tools. But yeah, you have your file right here. Easy. It's probably hard to see in this screen, but easy to take off, sharp, pointy edges, just to fuzz them down. A couple quick runs with that and you'll be in good shape. But yeah, this also has, spring-loaded jaws, easy to bend things off that are a little tough on the hands, or if your hands are super cold from, the weather, the environment you might be in. But yeah, another thing I talk about with this and just about all the products we make is, at least for me and the guys I hunt with, we got young kids, and whether it's young kids or if it's a lot of work or all the different things that are pulling on people's time, the worst thing that can happen is you get, a couple days in a month, let's say, and you get out there and something goes wrong. For us, what happened is last year, we're pulling our duck cart across this big old field, real bumpy in the middle of the morning, dark morning, and freaking handle breaks off, which controls the wheels. And I'm thinking, we got like 400 pounds of gear, decoys and stuff in here. And we're planning to take this thing pretty much to our blind. And so having the tools, that can basically save the day in that moment. And then for me, like that would have been, 33% of the time I had for that month. To duck hunt. And I was thinking, man, if I didn't have this multi-tool to be able to work on reattaching that and, ratcheting back down that bolt, we'd be screwed. And we'd be out there with 6 decoys or whatever we could carry with our packs.
Yeah, because that also comes with a screwdriver on there that's got Phillips and standards, and in the case, you have all the attachments that slide down in the case, correct? All
that's
the
right,
different heads.
10 different bits, and it's on the center axis. It works just like a screwdriver.
Yeah, it's so
which
awesome.
Is a patent we've got. So yeah, it's just super versatile. And that's something we try to work into as many of our products as possible. There's that saying, 2 is 1, 1 is none. When it comes to things that you're packing, if this tool that I'm carrying, this piece of weight that I'm carrying, only has one function, that's almost good for nothing. It needs to do at least 2 things, or in the case of a multi-tool, many more things than that. But
and that's got a sharp, that has a sharp blade in it too, as a regular knife blade as well, obviously.
Yeah, full 3-inch blade. Yeah, this is a heck of a multi-tool. Comes with all kinds of things, a pry bar.
The best part about that deal is the quality, and then you look at the price and you're like, seriously? What is MSRP on that?
$90 or $100 with a bit set. And it's,
that's crazy. It's made in America.
Yep. So yeah, that's the center drive. That's a great thing that gets me out of a lot of pinches. I never go anywhere without this in my blind bag, because
see, that's always in my blind bag too. And you know what? I love to have a couple of them though around. Maybe put one in your hunting buddy's blind bag, or put one in the truck, so you always have a multi-tool around. And I love what you said about less is more in a multi-tool, because sometimes you get in there and I love Swiss Army and the idea of that and the application, but sometimes when I'm like, well, I don't need a spoon, and I really don't need this one, and I don't need that, it's neat to go in there and say, I use all this. Yeah. I just used it yesterday because I had a doesn't matter, but I have a neon light that had a little deal going wrong with it, and I got the tool out, boom, fixed it. And I'm not the handiest guy in the world, which is kind of along the same lines of what you're saying, is that you don't have to be. It's kind of like being with Traeger. No, I've never won the Jack Daniels, the World Barbecue Championships, but I just made everybody think that I could by what I did with the Traeger, right? And it's just that whole mentality and having the confidence, and the Gerber tools and the Gerber lifestyle give you that confidence to do what you did with your decoy cart, and to do like what we're talking about in the blind. So now we move on, and I got this kind of a mentality, is that I'm kind of a knife snob, to where I probably am not going to use my multi-tool to do everything, because I want to have the reason to get something else. So like if I'm in the blind and I'm going to cut some parachute cord to wrap up into a slip knot to where I'm going to use as my duck strap for that day, I might use the multi-tool blade, or I might have a closed blade, that I'm going to throw open out of my pocket, or somewhere that's in my bibs or in my waders, in my chest pocket of my waders, where I would not hold my multi-tool because of the weight of it. I might pull that out real quick. But let's say that I reach in my cooler and I grab, my dad said, hey, you got to try this summer sausage we just had processed from our elk this year. Now, boom, now show me what you have there for a little folding knife where I'm going to cut, me and Remy Warren, or my brother Clay and Clint, we rip it open, we cut the plastic real quick, and we want to get really nice, easy slices to pass around and let people enjoy that wild game.
Yeah. So you talk about a pocket of duck waders. This is what I take in the pocket of my duck waders. It's called the Fastball. It's actually the one you customized a little while ago. Yeah. But yeah, super simple operation, made in America. It's got S30V steel, which means it's got incredibly long edge retention, meaning it's not going to dull really quickly like some of those call it less quality knives. It's got this compact form factor that's going to fit easily in a lot of duck wader pockets. But then, again, it's lightweight. It's got a 3-inch blade, so not oversized. And then it's got simple, we call it light switching action. It's like you flick the light switch, and that's all it takes to pop the knife blade all the way open and fully lock up. Super safe, very sharp and useful blade shape. You can see that it's called a Warncliffe blade. It's got a tip that's still strong, but it's pointed so you can really get into some precarious spots and do a lot of things in a pinch. It's a great all-purpose knife that we found that almost all of our ambassadors carry this, especially in the hunting space, even though it's an everyday carry style knife.
I use it nonstop. Yeah. And I love the strength fit. Do you offer something comparable? And let's say that you're hunting with kids a bunch that might be in and out of the blind bag. Do you offer something comparable with a lock on it?
Like a safety lock?
Yeah.
Yeah. Our automatic knives have safeties, and our assisted opens have safeties. But what we find in a lot of our manual, this is technically a manual, there's no spring to deploy it all the way. We don't put safeties in them because it's extra weight and it's extra complexity. But for kids, assisted open knives, which have a spring that'll help you open it all the way. They have it's called a cross bolt safety. You click it on just like a gun safety, left, right, with the thumb. And it's super simple. So things like the Hall or things like our highbrow compact, a number of assisted open knives will have that safety for kids.
Now, the Fastball is extremely sharp out of the factory. what are the factory test capabilities or the measurements that need to be met? Is there a certain guideline or measurement that needs to be met by Gerber to send that to retail, to a dealer, or on an online sale? Because they seem very, very sharp and well kept when they leave the factory, kind of like a lot of your higher end rifles that they'll shoot, the groupings will be solid right out of the box kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
What are the measurements on that, or the regulations that you guys abide by? And the other thing that I'll say about the fastball is that it takes forever for it to lose its edge, but I'm very anal about that again. And I love to make sure that it's as sharp as it's amazing how easy it picks its edge back up when you do put it to a stone or something. Talk to me a little bit about, what is the word I'm looking for? Not qualifications, not regulations. What are the
quality standards?
I guess quality standards is a way to say, but yeah, what is that your sharpness standards before it leaves the factory?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So there's a lot of things that go into cutting, and sharpness. Sharpness might be defined as the actual angle of that cutting edge. So we do a small window of 22 to 27 degrees included, which means both sides will be, in between. They'll add up to be between 22 and 27 degrees, and that's a really sharp edge to get through a lot of stuff. But sharpness doesn't really mean anything unless the steel itself is hard. So there's something called the Rockwell hardness score, and that's what's really going to tell you how hard your steel is and how long it's going to stay sharp. And so we have HRC 61 is kind of our target, plus or minus 1, and that toughness is going to outperform just about any steel in the commercial market right now. So yeah, S30V steel is super hard. You can sharpen it. We can sharpen anything to the degree we want, but it's going to keep that angle of sharpness that we sharpen it to for a very long time. And then, like you mentioned, one of the really important things about S30V steel is it's serviceable, meaning that you could get steel so hard that it's going to stay sharp extra long, but then it will never be sharpenable outside of sending it back to the factory. The steel
not good.
Gets to that hardness, but then still there's something in the makeup of the steel that makes it serviceable as well.
I love that part of it. And that's key, because I don't have time to send it back to the factory, right?
Right.
Most hunters don't like that, hear that. Like, oh, send it back, and it's like, no, I got to hunt tomorrow morning. I got a lot of, lot of work to do tomorrow. So that's key. So you cut that elk sausage, that summer sausage. Awesome. Something goes wrong with the gun, boom, multi-tool. You got everything in that multi-tool that you can take apart a Benelli anytime. If you need to punch the rods or anything, you can punch them with that. Anything that you need is that we've covered already in 3 simple tools that you guys make. Talk to me a little bit. I don't want to miss anything, because now obviously we're going to go into the butchering and the processing of the duck. But there's also, there's other things that come in handy of the way that I clean ducks, is that I cut a lot of heads off, right? I do a lot of things with an axe during the day. We have not covered a hatchet, which can go into that blind building to be able to get all of the natural vegetation that you need from the habitat there to match in that false line like we talked about. A hatchet can be used in so many different applications. And I'm not just saying this because you guys are our partner, but the hatchet that we've been using all season, like, I don't know if you can get a sharper one or a sturdier one, and one that will hold up, the one that gives you that confidence when you grip it. You can tell that there's been a lot of research that went into people in the field having a lot of input into that research of everything down to the grip and the way that it feels in your hands, the aesthetics of that. Because like when you hold up a Benelli Super Black Eagle 3 compared to the Super Black Eagle 2, it feels so much sleeker and lighter, and they improved on that part of it. Okay. When you get something in your hands, if you're a baseball player or a golfer, you know how that bat feels right in your hands. Or the golf club feels right in your hands. That axe and that hatchet just feels right in my hand. So I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, but let's talk about hatchets and the qualifications that Gerber has with theirs and some of the applications for them.
Yeah. And I know the product you're talking about that you use, it's our pack hatchet is what it's called.
Pack, yeah.
And the pack hatchet is, super slim stock of steel that has a really, really durable makeup to the steel composition. And then the thing about it that makes it, we call it the pack hatchet for, is it's so slim, and that as a result, that angle coming into that sharpened edge is really, really tight, which makes it very good at really deep slices, deep cuts. And you talk about versatility, 2 is 1, 1 is none. Those ergonomics that you talk about make it so you can choke up on that handle, you can actually get your hands right behind the axe head and use it to, shave down sticks, put a pointed edge on the bottom of a stick that you might use as the corner of a blind or something that you got to get into some dirt or mud. So it has a vast array of applications with that pack hatchet. But something I was thinking about too, showing you is we have some really high versatility machetes is the category they're technically in, but they have a lot of hatchet-like applications. So both of these fall into these three applications. This one here, we just released a SHOT Show this year. It's a personal favorite of mine when it comes to anything you might have in the truck or definitely in your blind bag. So packs down to this size here. It's about 8 inches. And then it actually butterflies open. So you have this lock to disengage here, and then you do this. And just like that, you have a full-size machete that can be used in the same applications as a hatchet. You could clear brush with this. You could go ahead and cut your blind grass with it, things of that nature. And then you can choke up in a pinch and use it like this as a knife. There's a recurve section on this blade, and it's very, very versatile for any application you might find in the blind. So really cool product there is the Double Down. You can do anything from clearing the grass to layer on to your blind, to splitting up wood to put on the corners of your blind, or any number of things like that. So that's the Double Down. I can show you the Versafix here as well. It has a similar 3 application situation. It's still got actually mud and dirt on it from my blind most recent duck season. But so Versafix here has a really weight forward design, and that makes it so if you just like let it loose in your hand, it's naturally swinging itself forward, and that basically duplicates or doubles your impact for the amount of effort that you're putting into it. So you're really good at chopping into things, taking down limbs and branches and whatnot. But then again, for cutting down a big swath of grass, you can do a great job of getting a bunch of grass at the same time, and then being able to use this recurve section here to do some knife work in a pinch. So that's the Versafix Pro.
I got to ask you a question real quick. When I watch you swing these around, and this is, how many Band-Aids does the Gerber factory go through a month?
Oh, there's a number.
Be honest. I mean, does it happen a lot? Because like, I just realized that you're not just using these like we do on a application level. You guys are messing with knives and sharp edges every day of your week.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So my hands will never be the same again. I mean, I'm just fooling around with knives and machetes and things like that all the time. But normally there's like a trend, right? There's injuries for people when they first start are about this high, and then I'm almost a decade in, so mine are pretty low.
It's almost like when people watch me clean ducks, if we're doing it with the breast out way with tenderloins and breast meat coming off the breastplate, I can go really, really fast, right? And then when people go to do it after me, if I'm giving instruction, they try to go that fast. And it's not a raw deal, because I think it's better to go slow and get all the meat off of the bone, right? Well, I can get all the meat off of the bone because I understand my knife and I understand the cuts and where I'm trying to get up against that plate and how to shave it and how to skim it off of there and how to keep the right amount of pressure on my pool of that meat to just keep it flowing naturally, right? Well, I can do it really, really fast. And then people are like, you're going to cut yourself. And I'm like, yeah, once in a while I have, but most of the time with a little bit of focus, you that sharp object makes you really pay attention, and you get used to it. The more you do it, the better you get. Like you're saying, your level of mistake goes way down the more you do it. But I would always tell somebody that every time you see somebody, doing something that might be a little bit well versed in that, like I would probably have you around to show me how to open that machete a few times before I just went after it. Because when you're opening it, your hand could get in a position or get in the way of that blade or something that you might not be ready for. And that's why instruction is key, which is another thing that Gerber offers with videos and an interactive website and all of the ways that you guys can be approached or messaged, is the instruction on how to use this gear. So when people hear the word machete, I get excited, but most people think, well, it's probably too big. It's intimidating. I've seen it on in movies with The Rock when he's down in the jungle, you know, and he's freaking cutting through big branches. No, a machete is a useful, practical tool. So I'm very happy that you brought that up, because we have them. If I walked out with this camera, this laptop, and opened the drawer of my deck, you'd see 2 of them laying right there with our hatchets. We use them for everything when we're building blinds. There's camping. I love the use of a machete. And the reason I bring up that intimidation factor is that we were doing something the other day, just as simple. My 9-year-old daughter, I'm showing her just how to open a cardboard box, take the goods and products out of it, and then turn it over, and the right ways to dismantle that box, to fold it up, and to take it to recycling, right, to flatten it out. Yeah. And her first response was, "No, Daddy, you cut it." And I'm like, "No, I want to show you how to hold this knife." She's like, and she got scared. And that's the thing, is that a lot of people that hate guns are uneducated, or they're scared of guns because they haven't been around them. They're not confident with them. Knives are the same thing. Knives are dangerous. They can kill people. Okay. For generations and decades and centuries, people have been in knife fights all the way back into history. So this is something that is to be taken serious. As you and I discuss this, I don't want people to be like, "Oh yeah, this is something you can just mess around." These are not toys. They're not something to take for granted. And that's why I asked the questions about the Band-Aids and again, I'm long-winded and I apologize, Karrson. You are going to nick yourself. You are going to see your own blood. But you know what? When I'm cleaning ducks, I cut myself more with the actual bone of a duck than I do with the actual knife, because of the sharp points, or the black cloud went through there and snapped a wing bone or a breastbone. And I've done it on deer. I've done it on, how many times you cut yourself filleting fish? Or, it happens. But make sure that you don't allow a mistake, or a simple mistake like opening that machete or any of the products that you've showed us, by taking it for granted that you're not going to cut yourself. These things are very dangerous. I want to make sure that everybody understands that, and that the utmost respect and concentration needs to be given to them. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We don't classify them weapons. They're tools, but tools can be dangerous no less.
100%. I mean, have you ever remember Happy Gilmore when they're shooting each other with the nail gun and that one goes right into his boss's helmet?
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
It can do damage.
It can do damage. So you always have to be on the up and up, and make sure you're focused and paying attention, because there's not a worse feeling in the world than hurting yourself. I keep going back to that, because I don't understand like the attitudes of like a Travis Pastrana and a Johnny Knoxville. Like, they're very, very qualified to do what they do, and they've made a lot of money doing it. But I don't even know how you get started by stapling yourself to the carpet or jumping off a roof like Travis consistently. They're crazy. So my point is just be careful. Okay, let's get back to the product. We've got the duck now. We're gonna I think we're out of the blind. Do you have anything else there that you want to discuss about the tools for the blind, building the blind, or why you're during the hunt?
Yeah, I guess the one thing I would bring up is I think for me, there are 2 very different scenarios for what kind of tools I'm going to bring. And it's one, I know exactly where I'm going, and there's at least the pre-built structure of the blind, and it's just going to need grassing. And the other ones, I'm going to go build a blind. And I guess the third one is it's a pre-made blind that it's properly done. In that case, I bring just a bare minimum of things, essentials for like, just in case something went wrong, some versatile tools, multi-tool, a versatile knife, etc. But the other 2, if I'm going to somewhere where I know it's a grasslands area and I'm going to need to clear a lot of grass, the Gator machete is a super, super basic machete that really excels at taking down grass. It's oversized, but super thin, really lightweight and easy to swing. So you can take down a whole swath of grass with one stroke on this. And one of the things that you got to know about machetes or any kind of cutting tools is there's tools that are designed for very specific reasons, and there's tools that are designed to be versatile. And the double down machete and the Versafix that I showed you, those are versatility tools. They're good at a number of things. This is good at one thing. If you're going to clear a bunch of grass, or you're going to cut a couple things, have a cross-cut saw on the back of it, this is the tool for you. That's all you need. You don't need to worry about those versatile tools. You just need a very precise tool to cut grass or really small vegetation.
Let me see the grip on there, please. So real comfortable grip. You can kind of see how it's contoured for the hand and your knuckles.
Yeah, it's our Gator grip. Very grippy. Yeah, super ergonomic, easy to clear a whole bunch with, but you don't want this if you're chopping down a 6-inch round tree or something like that.
No.
It's not the tool for it.
And you said it's very, very thin blade, making it lightweight, because if you have a lot of work to do, you don't want to be toting around a lot of weight. You're going to tire out too much.
That's right.
Unless you lift weights like you do a bunch and you're 100% on it, right?
Always.
So now we're back at camp or high five, and it might be time for a cold beer. But I always tell people, don't get the cold beer until you're done with the knife. Being cautious and taking precautions with this. Always stay safe. It's time to clean the ducks now. Now there's different ways. You pluck them. You cut them open and you take the guts out, but you got to cut the wings off unless you're transporting those ducks out of state or across the state line, county line. You got to make sure that you get them back to your abode before you do any of this. Because if you get pulled over by a game warden, you want to make sure that they're intact to where they can identify the bird, the sex of the bird, etc. So you might cut off the wings, you might cut off the legs, you might open up the stomach lining to get all the guts out of it. You might cut the head off. There's a lot of things that we're going to do now. You might just split them open and take the fat and the skin all the way off and just cut the red meat out of it. You might pluck the breast and cut through the skin and the fat to keep the fat on, which I love to do that style to render that fat down. Duck fat is awesome. So, talk to me about what you have now when you're back, of what you would advise a customer of saying, hey, I'm going to be doing all of that stuff. Obviously, you're going to have a small hatchet for the heads and the wings, or you guys might offer a very sharp, dependable, sturdy pair of shears, and obviously a knife, an open blade, a fixed blade, or a folding knife that you can easily get in and dismantle that meat.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking first about wings and head, actually back to things like machetes and hatchets, like you said. So I would go to the Pack Hatchet for wings and heads, as well as the Double Down or a VersaFix Pro type of product. A variety of things can take care of that need. It's a pretty simple, brute force move. But then, when you get to the more granular level, I think there's two camps. I've always been partial to replaceable blade style products where you have that really small, really fine surgical blade on there. And I feel like I can do a really precise job and get the most amount of breast and everything off of the duck. So I always use, this is our Vital folder. This is actually, I've been using this one for years. The color is all wrong, but it's the same product. It's done great. And I've used it for 7 years now, 6 years, I guess. So Vital folder, really good job. It comes with, replaceable plastic blades, so you can get 12 extra blades for $15. And you can be in business for seasons on that. And then when you actually finally run it dead, you just press this button here, pull it off, drop the next new blade on. Super simple, always sharp, and I feel like it's very, very precise.
So you engage the button again to put the new blade back in, correct?
Yep, that's right. Really small, ergonomic.
Dude, I have cut this last season, I cut so many breasts out of ducks in a heartbeat with that thing. So again, so sharp, like that's made for an operating room pretty much. You got to be careful with that piece because it is so athletic and so slim and so sleek. You literally feel like a ninja when it's in your hand. Pump the brakes and don't go faster than you need to go. Enjoy it, right? Don't get in such a hurry with these products. That's a badass product. I love that. Do you have some shears there at all?
I do. They're back there. It's the Vital take apart shears. They're really, really basic but very effective. They have micro serrations on them, so they grab and cut rather than the wing sliding as you go.
Yeah, not good.
So yeah,
do you offer a pair? Do you have a new pair of fishing shears out, or is that the one you're referring to?
Oh yeah, there's the processor. That would do an excellent job.
And they got a really innovative grip on them, don't they?
Oh yeah, big open frame on them. And a number of different cutting surfaces. The processor.
So what's the first one called?
The Vital take apart shears.
The Vital take apart, and the second one was what?
The processor.
Okay, so the Vital take apart and the processor. Everybody listen to this. Make sure you get one or the other for your bag, your hunting bag for hunting camp. Shears are a necessity, especially if you love to cook. And if you're following us, we'll teach you many ways and applications for the shears. So, all right, moving on to the next, Karrson. Yeah,
so the other half of that camp would be people that don't like the replaceable blade style products. So this is one of a series that just came out. This is an Exomod series. you can kind of build your own kit, and they snap together just with like the snaps you might find on high-end clothing, sporting good clothing. So you can build whatever you want. I currently have a caper, a full-size drop point, and a saw. But when you talk about the brushing out a duck, I look at this caper here. So you have skeletonized frame, and you have this area here where there's kind of this half circle. It's called a choil. Your finger fits in there really well to give you great control. And you can actually choke up. And then this section right here at the end, it has what's called jimping, and that's those little notches where your finger's going to land. So now you have two really good points of control. So you have great control over that blade as you're going through the chest cavity.
That's awesome. And that's called the
Exomod caper. Exo for like skeletal, mod for modular, because you can pick your
Exomod caper.
Yeah.
So is it made for cape? It's made for caping mainly, but you're saying you're going to use that for butchering also.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. This one definitely is one of those Venn diagrams where it'll work in both applications.
Show me the other one in there, the larger one. What do you have in there? Could that be, because this is an awesome style, this mod series of you designing and piecing it together.
Yeah. So Exomod drop point here, you got jimping top and bottom again. So you have total control over that knife. And then it's super lightweight, and that grip extends past the width of the steel. So you have really good ergonomics. A lot of those all steel handle knives are really uncomfortable to handle, but this does a great job.
Now this is a key part of a company like Gerber and what you guys do to develop this product line. You just said the words key to ergonomics, right? Okay. Anybody, it's just like a duck call. Anybody can build their own duck call, right? But to get it dead on, you got to be a master machinist in tolerances and measurements and research and just a qualified designer and machinist. Now, I'm not saying that you can't design one in your garage on your wood lathe and go out and kill ducks with it. That's not the point. I get that. There's a lot of pride in that. But anybody can build their own knife if you really want to. You can go find somewhere to build your own knife. You could even go anywhere overseas and have some company. I could go right now and order 200 knives from a company, then get my logo on them that don't have all of this research behind them. They're just classified as a knife. That is the difference in the quality of Gerber, the research, the scientific research, the in-the-field research, the engineering, the science behind the designs, the quality control, the ergonomics, because you guys pay attention to things that you just displayed of finger placement, not just your knuckle placement on the base, but your finger up top to guide it through that meat. Key, and it's so well thought out that you have the mind of that guy because you've been that guy with the headlamp on at dark on your tailgate cutting breast meat out to get in the marinade, right? Yep. So all of that, being a product designer and a product developer for a company and a brand as iconic as Gerber is, 100% depends on that knowledge of, you might take some from us, you might take some from Newberg, who's hunting a DIY hunt a lot on public property that he's so famous for. You might take it from Remy, who's a world traveler and a genius in the mountains. He's like a freaking mountain goat. The guy's on a different level. So you surround yourself with all these people that have input, and then you guys go apply that, and then you have the ability and the confidence to say what you just said, and that's what separates a Gerber brand knife and tool from any others on the market, is the research that went in that. And I'm not going to sit here and say that other brands have not done that, because they have, but Gerber lives it and breathes it every day in that factory. So that's why we fought so hard to get to the point to where we could attract somebody like Gerber to even give us a meeting, let alone a contract and a partnership. So we're humbled by that. What you went through today is exactly what we went, because it is essential for consistent success as a duck hunter, a goose hunter, a waterfowl hunter, and a provider. And to be a provider, again, is the coolest lifestyle in the world. You've been doing it for 5 years now, and I guarantee you that when you look in the mirror now, you're like, man, I feel so much cooler than I did 6 years ago, right?
Absolutely.
Man, I appreciate you coming on, brother. You got any closing words?
Oh man, we're grateful for our partnership with you, man. We are just happy to be a part of this rocket ship as it takes off.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you guys in person again. We got to get on a hunt this fall. Hopefully go do some boating or fishing this summer. I'd love to come up and tour the factory too. I want to check it out. So when this social distancing and the COVID's gone, I mean, I'm not gonna get into that rabbit hole, but stay safe, my brother. I'm glad that you're into this lifestyle. I appreciate your knowledge today. Text me when we get off here. Let me know how you thought it went. I'm going to hit you up for one of those of the machetes that fold up. That I got to practice with that. That thing looks slick. This has been been another episode of the Fowl Life Podcast, the essentials of duck hunting, goose hunting, waterfowl hunting series, brought to you by our friends at Gerber Tools, Gerber Gear, Gerber Knives, Gerber Blades. Check them out right now. Give me the website, Karrson.
GerberGear.com.
GerberGear.com, hashtag Gerber Custom. Design your own knife. Look at the fonts, the designs. We put ducks on ours. We wrote the Fowl Life down the blade. There's soon to be even more added to that selection and that portfolio. Hashtag Gerber Custom. This has been another episode of the Fowl Life Podcast. Thank you guys so much for subscribing, leaving us ratings and reviews. Please tell your friends, tell your family. Check out brand new episodes of the Fowl Life airing right now exclusively on the Outdoor Channel, and check out all of our merch at thefowllife.com. jargongamecalls.com, thislifeaintforeverybody.com, banded.com, and averyoutdoors.com. Thank you so much for the support of all of our brands and properties here. I'm Chad Belding for Karrson at Gerber Gear. We're signing off. Tom, hit that button. This song is called My Fowl Life by the rock band 2AM Logic. Thank you all very much.